Good morning, watch nerds. Now it should be noted I made this video prior to the sale of this watch, so although I'll be talking about it in the past tense, I have the watch at present, if that makes any sense. Now I've never been the greatest Seiko fan, but that said, I have owned several. Now I started this ridiculous hobby about 8 years ago when I set myself a project. This was to spend £500 on watches and double my money. Now I achieved this based on the fact I discovered Quarterbert watches, which were primarily being sold in Eastern Europe. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Along the way I bought the occasional cheap watch for myself, but with little knowledge of what actually constitutes a good watch. The bug had bitten and I started to learn about the ins and outs of watches. My first steps were to buy and wear brands most of us had heard of, including Seiko of course. But this was before I started watching YouTube reviews. My first Seiko was an XKX009, which is still an iconic timepiece, although technically not a very good watch in several respects. Namely a rubbish bracelet and clasp, mineral crystal, and an inaccurate automatic movement that didn't hack or hand wind. I then discovered homage watches, timepieces that resembled expensive watches, but were 100% legal and represented great value for money. So in came Parnis and some of their sub-brands. And for those interested, this is my watch of the day. It's the Christopher Wald Super Compressor. And what a beauty she is. At some point along the way I discovered microbrands, which really taught me a lot, and that's the finishing, the movement, design, bracelet or strap, even down to the packaging. Despite this acquired knowledge, I decided I wanted to buy a watch that was in high demand, and to be fair looked drop dead gorgeous, so I shopped around and bought a Seiko Alpinist with a limited edition mounting glacier dial. I managed to find a nearly new one on eBay for a very good price, so I pressed the button, and this was about 2 years ago. I wasn't disappointed in the sense it looked great and it wore great on the wrist. The only thing I hated from day one was the Cyclops, but I suppose that's just personal taste. As time went on, I learnt even more about watches and I bought a time grapher. I realised that the 6R35 movement is only really an NH35 with a longer power reserve. The positional variance is dreadful and the timekeeping varied every time I put it on. Okay, after several attempts to regulate it, I managed to get it running within 10 seconds a day, which it now does. But for a watch that would have cost around about £800, that really isn't great. In actual fact, when it first arrived, it was running at over plus 30 seconds a day. Please don't get me wrong, these movements on budget watches are fine, but anything costing north of £300 deserves something better. Also, other things needed to be taken into account bearing the cost. The exhibition case pack is mineral crystal rather than sapphire. Now even some of the AliExpress watches have sapphire crystal on the exhibition case packs, and they only cost a few £100. Neither crowns are signed, and the crown that rotates the internal compass, that's the one at the bottom, rotates so freely when you wear the watch through the day, the internal compass is always facing somewhere different. The bracelet was a very basic oyster style with push pins for adjustment. I suppose it at least got solid end links, which many Seikos don't. Now the clasp was only half milled and it only had one additional micro adjustment as well. Now this is a clasp that literally cost you a couple of dollars on AliExpress. Now if you buy a San Martin for a few $100s, you get a superb bracelet and a fully milled clasp, which has also got on the fly adjustment. Now the packaging, have a look at this. As you would have seen, it's a cheap cardboard box with a cheap cushion inside it. Honestly, I believe this packaging probably cost Seiko next to nothing. Now I'm fully aware that there are plenty of Seiko fanboys out there, and I'm the first to admit that they make some really great designs. I fully appreciate that they're really set up for the masses, and understandably they don't really care much about us enthusiasts. It's just the poor value for money they continue to offer that drives me mad. And what's more, they're famed for their poor quality control, especially misaligned dive bezels. This is a diverse hobby, and there are those who will only buy mainstream brands, especially as their retention value tends to be better than micro brands. And there are those people like me who struggle to see beyond low spec and poor value for money. Take this for example, because I think it's a good comparison. It's a Dryden Heartlander field watch. It's a US based micro brand, and all the watches are hand built in the USA, and this comes in this incredible deluxe box. Every part of the watch is top notch, including a regulated motor 9039 movement, sapphire crystal, fantastic case finishing, great lume, and an extremely well made bracelet with quick release spring bars, and a nice quality mill clasp, and that's got 4 micro adjustments. Now one of these will cost about $500 or £400, which is about half the price of an Alpiniste. In actual fact, the watch I've replaced the Alpiniste with is a Batavi Geograph, so if you haven't already seen my review on it, why not look it up? So unless something changes, I've now owned my last Seiko, although I exclude Grand Seiko from that. So it just remains for me to thank you for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please click on the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, leave your comments below, and enjoy the rest of your day.